Welcome back to another episode of the Business and Travel Podcast. Today we are joined by the one and only Nicki Christensen, who can't wipe a smile off his face.
G'day, Jackson.
G'day, Nicki. It's good to see you. Nicki, for everybody who is listening, is one of our very loved clients here at Social Growth Media. And we are looking at doing a fair few episodes together. For this podcast, we're going to come up with a little bit of a series. We have no idea what it is exactly yet, but it's definitely going to be very insightful because Nicki himself is responsible for growing a business here in Australia to over $7.2 million a year in sales. So he's got some very good tips that he's going to be sharing with us. But without me giving away his whole story, I'm going to hand it over to Nicki to introduce himself and a little bit of his backstory and a little bit about what we might go through today.
Good on you, Jackson. Thank you for that very superb segue. I think it's relevant. When Jackson and I were talking about doing a podcast together, we were thinking, what is it that will be useful and interesting for you? Because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about you listening and getting some sort of value out of it. And I like to go back to Jackson's first podcast episode, so you can look that up. That's on all the platforms now, where Jackson talked about version 1 is better than version none. And I like the way that you talked about that because, as you know, I'm a big proponent of that. And really, this is like freestyling together in a podcast because we've got two people that know their craft. I know business. Jackson knows business, but he's specialist in social media. Is that the right way to describe it, Jacko?
Yeah, that's good. Social media, sales, automation, all that sort of stuff.
So you've got two people that are good in what they do, and we're going to live by that principle of version 1 is better than version none. So for all of the, Australians in particular are very skeptical. I'm not sure, and as are Canadians as well, because we are worldwide. If you're a skeptical thinker, this is live happening. This is not a pre-scripted 7-step process to get you through to a magical buy pitch at the end to then monetize this, right? This really is a genuine approach to wanting to share value and actually give people some meaningful tools. Like you and I were talking earlier today about the speaking business.
Yeah.
When you really pull back the curtain of a lot of the world speakers about self-help and business, and it's just utter horseshit, a lot of what they're saying, because there's no takeaway tools from it. It's all just about a continuity, buy my product or get into a continuity loop with subscription. So that's not what we're about.
Yeah, there's not too many people out there that are sort of offering value with no expectation of return. And I guess that was why I started my podcast. You're starting yours as well. It's a free vehicle of information. And it was a concept that I learned in Israel myself. And it's a combination of that plus the quote that you went through with me in the Philippines. So a little bit of the backstory here, guys. We officially met over in the Philippines in Clark. So Nicki was running a division of his business in the Philippines, and I was as well. And we just happened to have met in the same office building over in the Philippines, both Australian, both from a very similar part of Australia.
Jackson's half my age, by the way.
Yeah.
We're both equally handsome, but you're half my age. You're younger.
Well, thank you. As you can see, guys, this is a freestyle. So we met, and that business that I spoke about that Nicki has built is in the floristry industry. It is Australia's largest online flower market. And so when we met, Nicki, started to talk to me about flowers.
And I had challenges.
You did.
I had social media challenges. I think much like every other business owner, right?
Started talking about flowers. He talked a lot about flowers and eventually bought some flowers for me, and we started the blossoming of a new relationship. How are these dad jokes, my man?
I'm the dad. I get to tell the dad jokes.
And I'm not yet. At least I'm not aware of. Anyways.
Just a quick segue. That's actually a very standard answer. I used to be home lending with one of the franchise groups. And one of the normal responses to a question was, when you're filling out a home loan application, how many kids do you have? The bloke would normally go, 2, and he would footnote it, that I know of. And it never ceased to amaze me. This was the standard rope answer for about 70% of the cases. And in about 100% of those cases, you get an elbow come in from the side from the missus. So you're exactly spot on.
Yeah.
That you know of.
That I know of.
Jeez, I could tell you some stories from home lending days. My God.
Well, tell us one.
I was sitting in a house in Kingston, which is a suburb here in Brisbane, and it was a 2-story. So you walk up the steps at the front and you walk in. It was like this lime green weatherboard house. And I've sat down at a very frugal kitchen table with a young bloke who was a mechanic, nice guy, wanted to borrow some money. It looked like it was going to work, and I'm riding out the lane, and he goes, out of the blue, he goes, do you like snakes? And I'm in the middle of writing out his details. And I'm going, no, not really. Not a big snake fan. And he goes, that's a shame because I keep snakes. I really like them. Would you like to touch one? I didn't know where he was going with this. And I thought, what's going on here? He goes, I'll show you. And I go, before I could say, no, don't worry about it. He's walked into one of the bedrooms, opened the door, and I can see this red glow come out of the bedroom. So you know what I'm thinking, oh, shit, here we go. He's going to pull out a snake. And he does. He comes walking out with this massive carpet python that's his pet that he keeps in the spare bedroom. And he goes, would you like, and I go, white? I get this instant sweat. Like I have a phobia about snakes, right? I know I'm Aussie. I know I'm Australian. I'm supposed to be like, snakes are no problem. Absolutely shut myself. And I said, no, that I can see it from here, mate. That's fine. That's great. It's a nice looking snake. I put it back in the cage. So he puts it back, comes back and sits down and he goes, And we talked for about another 10 minutes. I can see there's something bugging him. He's a very simple guy. I said, mate, what is it? What's, you look a bit nervous. What's going on? He goes, I think I'm missing one. And like fingernails down a chalkboard. I said, what do you mean you think you're missing one? One what? He goes, one of my pets. I think I'm missing one of the snakes. What exactly do you mean? Well, there's a black one that I've got in the cage in the corner, and I just glanced and I couldn't see it. Never in my life as a home mortgage lender have I ever been that scared. So I quickly thanked him for his time, told him that I had a prior engagement to go. I reckon about 30 seconds from the time where he said he's lost a snake to I was out the front door. That's one of the weirdest things that ever happened to me in home lending, snakes.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the moment Nicki Christensen decided to start his own business and stop being a mortgage lender. And it was a great decision long term. He hasn't run into as many snakes. Yes, there's an endless list of those. But today, let's get into some content. What could we potentially provide as some value other than some snake stories? We have been through a lot together. We could talk about specifically how important it is to build websites the right way the first time. I think we've all been victim to this.
Let's start that. I mean, I said to you this morning, like you said, we need to build, we were freestyling with one of my brands I want to launch. And Jackson said, well, you've got to get the right website. That's what he said to me, right? And I said, that's easy. Don't worry about it. It'll be easy. And the look on Jack's face was just like, had horror written all over it. Yeah. Why did you have horror written all over your face when I said that?
Because at the end of the day, building a website nowadays, it should be easy, and it seems easy, especially when we've been sort of so programmed and trained by a lot of these commercials that are out now around, say, Wix and Squarespace and so forth. And like, because they're pre-templated built websites and the marketing's really good around them, it seems very easy to build a website. And it theoretically is easy to build something that looks good. But there's a big difference between a website that looks good and a website that functions good. Too often we get caught up in just looking at the design maybe of a website when really the design...
That's the fun part.
I know.
Business owners fall in love with their own design. You know that, right?
Obviously, business owners fall in love with their own logo. Everyone loves their logo.
Well, that's brand, right? Isn't my logo my brand?
Your logo is your brand. So we discussed this at length, and at the end of the day, what you see on a website when it comes to design is really just a very small part of the equation to building websites. For example, most people think about building a website on the device that they are looking at websites through, which could be a desktop. But is your desktop a 16-inch laptop, 24-inch monitor, or an Apple MacBook Pro? Is it a mobile phone? Is it a Windows phone, Android phone? Is it iOS or browser even? There is literally hundreds and hundreds of different combinations of the way users will experience your website. And that's the trap. Too many people build websites without that in mind. And it really does come down to the quality of development. And unfortunately, the web development industry is a very, very deep rabbit hole of money wasted a lot of the time for business owners, like I've been through and like Nicki's been through.
I think a lot of people have gone through it. If you've been in business for a while, if you're not a entrepreneur or a startup, if nothing wrong with that, by the way, but if you've been around the block a few times, you've burnt a whole heap of money learning some stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially on websites, because it seems to be this thing where it should be easy by now. We're in 2018, but it's still just as challenging as it was 15 years ago. Even though there's all this other software and processes that you can go through, it is still challenging. And I've really drilled down on this, that the reason it's so challenging to build websites is because the advice that you get is always coming from a web developer themselves. And unfortunately, like most people are acting in their own self-interest. So, when a web developer provides you with advice, or if you as a client or as a small business owner or a startup or an entrepreneur, you want to build a website and you go to a web developer and ask the web developer, what's the best way to build a website? By nature, the web developer is going to build the website the way that makes them the most money long term. And so I see it happen time in, time out again. And this happens for app development as well. It's the exact same problem. I've seen hundreds of clients burn 50 grand on building an app the wrong way the first time.
Just on an app?
Oh, yeah, man.
Really?
Apps, that's how much an app costs, right? Or if you want to build like a startup app, like a proper piece of software with your own technology, your own source code and all that, right? Yeah.
Isn't this part of the problem though? Like you see what just happened, like, I can do that for like a cheap subscription, like, But that's the problem. Exactly the problem you're discussing with websites. Like, is a website just the thing that pulls up on a browser and looks good? Like people think all websites were born equal.
No, what the most important thing when it comes to website is optimization of the website. So how fast does it load?
But nobody understands optimization and SEO, and they're all voodoo, dark web, black hole bullshit stories that we're told by people wanting to extract money out of us, aren't they?
Well, at the end of the day,
isn't this the problem we have as business owners?
This is the problem. It's a really big communication problem. Like, what do we understand as business owners? We want the result. As a CEO, you don't really care how the job gets done. You just need the job done. And then it's your job to try and fix the inefficiencies and make it better. But at the end of the day, we think up an idea. We think up what we want as the final result. And we think that we should just get that as the result. But unless you know the absolute nuances of whatever that project or task is, you're going to burn money. And this is the biggest problem with building websites, and we've run into it a lot. It sounds easy because there are cheap solutions out there, but that doesn't mean that those cheap solutions are the right solution for your business. If you have a very, very small business and it's a bricks and mortar business, a very cheap website solution could be your solution because you don't need all that much. You don't have a lot of online traffic. There's not thousands of people hitting your page. You don't need upgraded hosting solutions and custom built plugins and all these sort of things that you put into websites. You just need a landing page. So for some people, this really cheap websites work. But in most cases, if you've got a decent idea or a startup or a small business that functions online, you need some decent and expensive help a lot of the time. And most people don't take that step until, the third time round. They sort of get burnt once or twice, burn the 5 to 10 grand, and then decide after that, then they're going to invest the real money in a real functioning website, or at least a website development team, right?
Why do we do that as people? Because when you really look back on it, we were talking about this over lunch today, with when you trial things, you're burning your own time, which is actually probably the most important, more so than money. Yeah. And also money's wasted on things that don't work. Why don't we then naturally gravitate towards the developer that's $50, $70, $100 an hour versus the $13 option? Why is it that, it's the same question. Why do 80% of Australians fly Jetstar, not Qantas? Are we really that fixated on cheap versus value? Like, this is the conversation has to shift, right?
Well, it comes back to, this is something that I teach to everyone at workshops. It's one of the first things we put on the board. is what is your hourly rate? So the way you calculate your hourly rate, right, is
I'm
your
holding my calculator.
he's got his calculator. Is you add up the what is your turnover, right? What is your business turnover? Okay. And this is at a gross basis, right? Because irrespective of the net, right, or what you actually get to keep as a business owner, that does not matter. The gross turnover divided by the number of hours that you work that year. Okay. So let's go for 2,000 hours a year. 2,000 hours a year is, let's just hypothetically say we're working 40 hours a week, which none of us do. If you're working 40 hours a week as a normal, like paid employee, very good job. 40 hours a week, say there's 50 weeks in a year, 2 weeks for holidays, you got 2,000 hours, right? So you take your annual turnover, and if you actually are working 80 hours a week, well, then just double it, 4,000 hours a year, right? If you take your annual turnover at a gross basis, and let's say, for the sake of argument, we'll take $7.2 million here for
Nice
Nicki.
random number.
Nice random number. Take that 7.2 mil, divide it by 4,000 because you are definitely working 80 hours a week, and Nicki's hourly rate is $1,800 now. The reason it's $1,800 now is because irrespective of the net, irrespective of what you actually pay yourself, none of that money comes through to your business without you, right?
That's what you're generating.
You're the CEO.
Isn't that funny? People would say, oh, no, it's my net. What do I earn an hour?
Yeah, that's a different calculation.
That's a whole different ballgame.
What you earn an hour and what you're worth an hour are two very different numbers.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
So you're worth $1,800 an hour. By definition, because you're doing that sort of turnover and you've obviously got a management team in place, without you, that team doesn't function. Without you, that team doesn't get paid. And without you, that whole business doesn't run. So without you, there is $0 coming through. And yeah, sure, you could obviously sell it or offload it to someone else. But the way it's structured right now, you are in control of all of that money coming through, and the buck stops with you. That is your responsibility to make sure that $7.2 million is $7.2 million this financial year or better at a growth rate. So theoretically, your hourly rate's $1,800 an hour, and that's not outrageous.
Good earn per minute.
That is a good earn per minute, $30 a minute.
Generation,
Right?
How long do you think it takes to clean the toilet? 5 minutes?
I wouldn't know. I have a cleaner.
I was just getting but seriously. I mean, how many people have the spousal guilt about, I should be a better spouse, I should help out cleaning the house? Or my take on it has always been, I'd rather pay someone to come in and iron my shirts, clean the toilet, do the yard, because for $140, I get my 800 square meter corner block, fully landscaped, basically. And I've always thought it doesn't make sense for me to be doing it. So all jokes aside, it actually doesn't make sense for us to be doing menial tasks like that.
No. And that's like, time is the only thing that you can't get back. You can always get more money. You can always earn more money. Every few weeks, you're going to get paid more money into your bank account. But every few weeks, you don't get paid more time. Time's something you never get back. So if you understand how to value your time, let's say you take the normal example, like this is how business owners have to calculate their hourly rate. Every normal example is a salary or an employee. $40,000 a year, you can calculate your hourly rate. $80,000 a year, you can calculate your hourly rate. And everyone does. It's the first thing that an employee does is to go, how much am I actually earning per hour? How much work am I doing? So all of our employees, mine included, yours included, they're all calculating their hourly rates, but we're not. And so from day one, or from minute one, when I get into, workshops and teaching and stuff like that, it's the first thing I teach people. It's really eye-opening, because if you know what your hourly rate is, well, then everything else is basically a way to, I just completely went blank on the word I use every single day, arbitrage. Every single day, you can figure out what the specific arbitrage is of the money that you can deploy and use to hire other people that specialize in those areas, whether it be website development, whether it be Instagram marketing, SEO, HR, event coordination. It doesn't really matter. Everyone out there are so many different types of people out there. that can specialize in things that you don't specialize in at an hourly rate that is immediately going to be less than the hourly rate you should be valuing your time at if you're running a profitable business or a business that's doing a fair bit of turnover. You can play around with these numbers as a small business owner or a startup. If you're doing 100, 200, 300, 400 grand of cash flow a year, well, then these numbers change a little bit, right? You can start to say, oh, well, hang on a minute. My hourly rate actually is somewhere around 25, 30 bucks an hour. All right. It could be $100 an hour, right? But if you can hire someone that's better at it than you, and that's the other thing, when you get a specialist at $100 an hour, they'll get the job done in an hour versus your 16 hours that it takes to get that job done. So everything's about the arbitrage of time in business, I find. And if we go back to, how we started talking about that, well, we've had lots of experiences, dealing in the Philippines, for example, and outsourcing. And yes, we might get that $13 an hour type web development done. But what was it really? Was it $13 for the hour, or was it $1,813 for the hour to train the $13 an hour type person? And that's where you go, well, am I really deploying my time in the best way possible training these people when I could just invest $50, $60, $70 an hour in a specialist that already has 10 years of experience, and then I don't have to train them. I don't have to think about it. It's just done.
I just got really angry at myself because I just worked out the $1,800 an hour, and I think I've spent more than, in the 1 year in 2016, I spent more than 180 nights or days away from the core business building the Philippines team.
Yeah.
Now, if you work $1,800 an hour over the amount of hours that I worked up there, which was at least 12-hour days, over 180 days, shit. I can't tell you, shit.
But we live.
Oh, you live and learn. I've got no problem, right? It's like version 1, better than version 1, but I tell you what, version 10 is a lot better than version 1.
Yeah, we're learning as we go. Every business owner does. Doesn't matter how good you get at this game, you will never stop learning from your own mistakes. Because as you move up the food chain and you move up the revenue ladder, well, the problems get bigger. And
I come up with a saying, like there's a lot of MSG in Chinese food and it's quite bad for you, right? But whereas in business, MSB is very, very good for you. You have to have a mistake-safe business. Basically, you have to have an environment where your staff feel safe to make a mistake, because only through that will you have the true breakthrough aha moments. And I use the MSG, MSB all the time just because I like food and stuff. And I like acronyms. I'm an acronym king. So MSB. So if you can create an environment where your staff will go out and try new things and they won't get a new bum if they get it wrong, then I will argue that you will succeed a lot more than somebody who tries to play in the safe zone the whole time.
It's true.
Yeah. MSB
instead of MSG. Side note, I'm pretty sure I don't know if you can validate this source, but I saw a few articles saying that MSG is just a full-on con, that for the last 30 years or so they created MSG as this like way of stopping people from eating that type of food because there was another food chain involved that wanted you to eat their food instead. I don't know, do some research. Wow. That was not really that insightful because I don't have real source. Don't really want to speak about it unless I got it. But yeah, I saw heaps of articles that said that MSG is not a real thing. Like it's no real research 30 years on that says that it was anything more than like a current affair scare campaign for like a whole year that just stuck with everyone. That's it.
Thank you for that insight.
We'll see. Explore.
For those of you that are mildly interested, make sure you research that and have a look. Who knows, right? The things that we take for granted. A very wise man, Coach Les, said to me, he challenged me one day and he goes, how do you know? The ultimate open loop question, like, how do you know? It's like, come on, let's fuck. The sun rises, the moon comes up, the earth's round. He goes, how do you know the earth's round? Okay, slightly absurd. But you go, well, we learn it at school. There's NASA. We've got pilots. Like, because there are so many people that you would think would highlight something, you just accept something to be real. But I used to not listen to conspiracy theorists at all because I'd go, it's like the Mel Gibson movie with the owl fall around the head, right? Like conspiracy theory. But when you really think about it, you've got to go and validate things sometimes yourself. And it's not an absurd suggestion that MSG was made up. It's a conjecture And then people have to investigate that to make their own informed opinion, right? And too often, I think we get caught in herd mentality where we either accept something for what it is or what it isn't based on what the herd believes it to be or not to be. Yeah. And that's where self-limiting beliefs actually start being drawn from a global view, not the personal view, right? So it can actually be really destructive. So I've flipped my whole viewpoint on conspiracy theories, just to term it as a phrase, and go, you know what? If something piques your interest, seek your own understanding of it and arrive at your own conclusion. Like, we could do a whole podcast on, did September 11 happen?
We are not doing that.
No, there's websites devoted to this stuff, right?
I could speak about that for hours and hours and hours.
Like, where did the towers go.com?
Yeah,
like,
no.
Anyway, we're not going there.
I'm already excited.
Okay, we're not going there. There'll be another podcast.
But the only way to find the true answer is to ask questions.
Can I touch on that point?
Yeah.
So if in business I've done this, not to that extent, I haven't gone out and lied about a competitor, but I certainly have used one of the best arsenals in sales. Would you agree with this, FUD? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah.
So if you can plant the seed that is not complete bullshit, because you've got to be ethical in business, I believe, because I sleep very well at night. I'm very ethical in what I do. But the FUD, I've used FUD so many times successfully, and it's sort of wherever it ends up is not really my concern. It's what I state and how I state it is what I'm concerned about. How you understand what I've said to you, that's on you, not on me.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Sales is an art. You can't just describe a product or a service and people buy it. I mean, if it was that simple, it would be that simple. Sales is an art. Sales and marketing, there is a lot more than meets the eyes when it comes to sales and marketing. But I definitely agree with the ethical point. Like, if you're not acting ethically, there's a lot of things that you're not allowed to do after you start acting unethically. For example, putting out a podcast. Like, you can't just, it's very hard to be in the public eye or provide anything at a public scale if you're acting unethically, because you're going to get exposed, and that's not going to end well. So you always have to act ethically. But similar to gain, logic, fear, you've seen that whole idea?
No, explain to me.
So when you sell, there's 3 different ways to sell to someone's brain. You've got gain, you've got logic, and you've got fear. And every human actually responds to one of those 3 significantly more than the other 2. And it depends on who it is as a person. So as a marketer or someone who's in sales, you have to incorporate all 3 into your sales and marketing message, or else you're going to miss one of those types of people. So gain, for example, is, what are you going to gain? What is that person going to gain from the product or the service? All right. Logic is logically why you should buy the service or product. It makes sense, right? And then fear is, the fear of missing out, or the fear of losing something, or the fear of being left behind, or that uncertainty or that doubt. A lot of people are driven that way. And it all stems back to basic human psychology and primal instincts around why we do things. And so with all the different sales and marketing messages that I've used throughout my whole career, I always incorporate those 3 in some way, shape, or form. If you have a good product or a service, it's very easy to have those 3 messages. The customer should immediately know what they're going to gain out of it, right? I'll give you an example. Just take fitness. I've consulted heaps of different types of people that do personal training or something, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. What are you going to gain? Well, you're going to gain more muscle, right? Or you're going to lose more fat. Still a gain, right? You're going to gain health, right? And logically, well, health is probably that. Logic dictates why you should be signing up to a personal trainer, right? Well, you're going to get bigger, faster, quicker, healthier. You're going to feel good. Like, logically, that's why you should do this. And then fear is like, well, there's heaps of different fear messages in personal training, but the fear is, well, your body is deteriorating. Like, what if you don't take care of your health? If you don't take care of your health, you're going to die, in the most extreme way. That's the fear of not going to the gym. So you can create your sales and marketing message around those 3 different types of concepts. And you want to sell to those 3 different types of customers or human beings, the way that they think. Me, for example, I don't buy anything based on what I'm going to gain because I know that there's going to be another sale. Don't care how many times Rugs A Million tells me they're shutting down. I know they're not.
What? Carpets aren't on sale anymore?
Right. So it's like, I know that 50% sale off, I'm not missing out. I know that, right? Because I'm a salesperson. And then the gain, right, would be you're going to gain money by securing this discount. You're going to save money. Gain. That's what I gain. Okay, great. I don't care about either one of those because I don't buy based on discounts or price or stuff like that. I buy on value. So my way of thinking is logic. Like if you can logically tell me why I need this, I'll have already made the decision myself to buy this product. You don't have to sell it to me.
I'm the same. I base my buy decisions on logic.
As a business owner, you obviously have to have a certain level of intelligence. And so we've been through a lot of the gains and the fears, right? Of like, oh, okay, we bought based on that. But logically is why we make all of our decisions as business owners, because it has to make logical sense. Otherwise, you're just not going to do it. And so that's our most important thing. But if you go and mix in all three, that's where the magic happens, right? So you've got someone like us. If we keep hearing the logic message of why we need something, makes perfect sense. Then if you back that up by saying, here's what you're going to gain as well, and you're going to do it within this period of time, or you're going to miss out, well, then we go, all right, now I've got all the reasons why I should probably do this, right? But the initial spark of why we made the decision, we'd already made the decision logically, go and add the other two in, and it's like, all right, done deal. Let's do this. And that's how we make most of our decisions, or that's how I make my decisions, for example. At the end of the day, that's the gain, logic, fear sequence of sales and marketing. There's a little bit of value there. What have we covered in this episode? Pretty good introduction, I would say.
And I just want to add something to what you just said about the way that sales is structured. One thing that I found really interesting, because I like selling in flowers, I've had a lot of cracks at marketing and different campaigns, and an improvement offer never does as well as a new offer. And I thought on face value, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but when you really understand the psychology of it, it sort of makes a lot of sense.
So what's an improvement offer?
So an improvement offer is, and I'll put it in a gym context. I think it's the easiest for a broader range of the audience to agree to understand. So if a gym was running a marketing message of join Nick's gym and we will make you a slimmer, fitter you. And if you then had another gym, say Jackson's gym, who's smarter, who ran an offer that said 2018, the new you, the way you want to be. I've used two things there, but the new you will outsell the change what you're doing and become something else offer. I think it's about 2-1 on the stats that I could find when I was looking around on the net. And the simple reason for that is an improvement offer is just too fucking hard. It's like, if you do this differently, you will achieve this other result. Whereas if you say, hey, Jackson, here's the new way of you being the you that you want to be. Come and join me and I'll show you how. Fucking oath, let's go. This sounds really simple. Yeah. Isn't that funny? Because even if weight loss was the hot button, and even if I'm talking in gym terms, because gym is such health, and like, oh, I wish I was slimmer. That's why I was swimming this morning, because I want to be slimmer and more attractive for my wife. But the new offer will always outperform an improvement offer. And when you look at the psychology behind it, it makes complete sense. But when you only look at it without analyzing it, you'll go, no. Well, if you're a painter, repaint your house so it looks better. Well, you're improving what's done. No, you'd want to get me in to paint your house so that it can become the house of your dreams, so it becomes what you want it to be. You're shifting them to a new spot. You're not improving on what's there. Just for what it's worth. It's one thing I ponder.
Yeah, no, I've seen that research. Yeah, like
Are my stats right? I think it's 2-1 on the sales. Like,
it could be even more.
Yeah, I think it's 2-1.
I'll tell you another one, little stat. It's 5 times more expensive to acquire a new customer than to maintain an existing customer. That's an official stat in business.
Makes sense.
So if you have a very good model around taking care of customers that you already have, adding new customers in, you can afford to spend a lot more to get new customers because you have a very good model of keeping them, because those existing customers are the ones that are going to pay the bills 5 times more than trying to acquire new ones. Because, when you acquire a new customer, you've got all the sales, marketing, development. I mean, we can go through the whole case study of like building a brand new website, for example. right? Freshflowersdirect.com.au coming soon from Nicki.
Thanks for the plug. That's what we're talking about on the brand this morning. We actually it's funny how things happen. We were starting the conversation around the new brand, Fresh Flowers Direct, as Jackson mentioned. We started talking about the core brand of CFA. And we realised once we explored and workshopped it that Fresh Flowers Direct was the better one to focus the SEO on. Yeah. And this is where this conversation started today on search engine and website building, and what's the difference between a good website and a bad website. And quite simply, if I can paraphrase the whole day on what we've been talking about, and even this sort of 35 minutes or so, it's about the SEO. It's about conversion, right? And you only get conversion if you can be found and people know that it's there.
Yeah, findability.
It's as simple as that, right?
No point having an insanely good product, service, and business if no one knows who you are and no one can find you.
If you can't find your car keys, you can't drive the car.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
It's a dad joke in reverse. But it's true, right?
It is.
Yeah.
If we're building websites, we focus everything around SEO or search engine optimization. And I don't know, maybe we should explain that. That is the way that you get found on Google. Right? That is Google's way of reading your website and ranking it according to how interested its customers are in your website. So if you can rank your website in a very clear and concise way and very specifically identify your products, your services, what your business is, well, if you have a very good SEO specialist or company behind you, that company spends its whole time ranking your website for specific searches that people are doing on Google so that your website can be found, right? Because if someone is searching for your product and service, you want to be ranked first for that. Otherwise, if you're not ranked first, well, one of your competitors is. And if one of your competitors is ranked first, well, they're going to be the ones making the money. So SEO is easily the most important thing when it comes to building a website. It's nothing to do with how good the website looks. It's how good the website
there's a lot of architects out there that are sitting there having a heart attack.
The design is very important too.
No, it's not just design. It's not just function. It's the element of design and motion in time and space.
Well, in the same context, can you live inside a CAD drawing that an architect puts together? Can you live inside the booklet that they print out? Or do you need the builder or the developer to build the house so that you can live in the house? And what happens if the builder doesn't build the house the correct way? What happens if the builder builds it with shoddy foundations? Well, the house falls down in bad weather, and your website does the same thing. If you don't build it correctly, if you don't lay the foundations correctly to building websites, well, when the weather gets bad, or let's say the weather gets good, let's say your website gets a lot of traffic. There's a website property I was recently working on. It had 500 people hitting the website every day, but 92% of the people that were hitting the website were bouncing because the page took 11 seconds to load. So if the page takes 11 seconds to load and 92% of those people are bouncing off your website, what's the point in even having 500 people hitting the website? Technically, then it's not 500. Technically, there's only about 40 or so. So that is the problem with not building a website the right way. It might look good, look all pretty, but at the end of the day, if it's really slow and it's not optimized and it doesn't work, well, it's not serving any value or purpose to the consumer, and Google understands that, so it's going to de-rank your website. It's not going to show it to potential customers or people that are searching, and you're going to lose a lot of money. So, we see it all too often. There's businesses left, right, and center that are just burning money every single day by not having it built the right way the first time. And that's why, the whole topic of this conversation is invest a little bit more money the first time, get the right result the first time, and get a good result long term.
So I was going to say that because as business owners, those of you listening right now, you might be sitting in the car or sitting at your desk or even doing laps in the pool with your Bluetooth headset in. Who knows where you are? But you'll be somewhere listening to this and you'll be going, well, shit, what's the top 2 things I've got to ask somebody when I'm approaching them to do website or SEO? Or like Jackson, what are the 2 best tips you can give someone like me if I didn't know you?
That is a great question. For a novice that doesn't know how to build websites, that is a great question. Well, first of all, you need to segregate the roles of the people building the website, okay? there is no such thing as a website developer by themselves. You can't get a person that designs your website and develops your website.
You put it to me this morning like the builder doesn't design the house and then build the house.
There you go. So the same analogy. You've got an architect that architects the structure of the house, but how do you build a house? If you want to build a big house, is it just one builder even? Like you've got a project manager, you've got a carpenter, you've got a plumber, you've got all these different people that specialize in different areas of that house. And a website development is very much the same if it's that big. It doesn't have to be that big for a lot of small businesses, but there is definitely a difference between an SEO specialist, a website developer, and a website designer. And there's even a third role in there, which is someone who converts that design into something that is ready to code. So there's a few job titles when it comes to actually hiring for a website project. And that's why it sometimes is best to just, I would say for most people, it's better to just hire a web development team. But if you're going to hire a web development team, I would say that the most important thing to ask is, what are the conversion stats, right? How fast your previous project pages loading. So you can get a portfolio from most web development companies of things that they've built. You can log on their website. You can run speed tests on their websites. And that's what I would do when it comes to research. You want to see if the company can not only build a website that looks good and I guess is coded and developed, but it also needs to be high quality. It needs to load quickly, and they should have some sort of metrics that they can showcase to you that shows that, it is SEO friendly, it is a fast website, it is coded correctly, it's optimized and all of that.
So designer, developer, just see if I got this right, and an optimization specialist.
Yeah, so optimization specialist is your SEO person. So those three are your sort of core three, I guess, and then you slot in above that as a project manager, right?
This is going to be weird for people because a lot of people don't know they actually need more than one person. I think they've all been, everyone's thinking, SEO person's one person, right? But you're talking three, plus you haven't even gone into, like, say, content, other stuff that you could push this into. Your minimum entry requirement here, folks, is 3 people. Three skill sets.
I mean, I was talking to you about, so our SEO team in-house, for example, is there just one SEO specialist? No, you have an SEO strategist, but then we've got another 2 here for that particular project. You've got a backlinking, cross-linking specialist when it comes to SEO. You've got a content marketing specialist that produces blogs.
Let's not scare people. I think the optimum number is about 8 people, right? There's 8 roles that are created that you could have if you have a full team to do it. Would you agree? Yeah, see, I picked 8 because my brain can't go any further.
There's hundreds of roles that you can fill if you want to get that specialized. But at the end of the day, the best thing, the easiest solution, right? And that's version 1's better than version none, definitely. But say you come to a company like Social Growth Media. I don't know where I got that one from. But say you did. Instead of having to give a shit about hiring the content specialist, the SEO specialist, the web developer, the designer, this, that, and everything else, well, you give the project or the task to the company, and I deal with all those headaches instead. I'm the one who has to hire all these people, manage them, and get the project delivered. So that is definitely a cheat code to building businesses, is hiring outside companies or consultants that take the responsibility and the headaches away from projects that you don't specialize in yourself. If you're a business owner, you don't know anything about the internet or social media or digital marketing or any of these things, you're going to come full circle. What's your hourly rate? How much of those hours are you investing in trying to learn a specialist skill that you're never going to be good at compared to a specialist, because that's what they do for their job and life, right? How much is that hourly rate? And if you can find a company that gives you a good price and value in exchange for you not having to contribute your time, well, you're going to take that every day of the week. because you're getting deliverables, you're getting a project done, and you're getting a team of specialists to work on something instead of just one person. You don't have to manage them. You don't have to do the hiring, the firing, the day-to-day management, the company culture, and everything else that goes around getting these things done. You've got these agencies like mine. Like we don't specialize in many things. You know, if someone comes to me and says, we want you to do we want to do Facebook ads and Google AdWords, well, I just tell them the next best person I know. You know, if they desperately want to do that, I'll tell them not to do it for start, because it's just so damn expensive and a waste of money if that's the first step. But if they are dead set on wanting to do that, I'm going to give them the number of the specialist that does that, because we're not specialists at that. We're specialists at Instagram marketing and SEO. That's it. And that's where we draw the line. And that's enough. You know, like there is well and truly enough to do on those two topics alone, without even touching any of the other topics.
I think it's good. I think a lot of the times we have to give ourselves permission to spend the money where we need to. And if you're struggling with spending the money in the right areas, let me give you this stat. If your business is turning over around $3 million, which is a sort of small to medium-sized business today in Australia, if you were to get a 10% bounce in revenue, that's $300,000 a year, right? Which is conservatively $25,000 a month. So if you reverse engineer the figures, because obviously you're smart, you're listening to the podcast, you're interested in business, and your business is doing okay at $3 million, every month that you're delayed is costing you revenue of $25,000.
Yep.
So if someone was to come to you and say, I'll give you a fully managed solution, it'll cost you $75,000 and I'll have it delivered in 3 months.
Yep.
That looks like a good deal to me if I was a $3 million company.
Yep.
But if you're not thinking about it in that context and someone walks in and goes, or if you're trying to pitch me at an event, you go, Jackson, I need a website. Really, Nicki? What do you need? Okay, great. It'll be about $75,000. It'll be deliverable in 90 days. Holy shit. Like I would go, my God, I could buy like a blah, blah car with that. But if you really reverse engineer, what are you missing out on from a revenue point of view?
Opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Is the word.
Yeah, exactly right. What is the opportunity cost of inaction? What is the opportunity cost of putting up with that website that's a dog? Or even if it's a good website, if you think it's performing well, one of the key tenets that I like talking about is know your numbers. And even you've pulled out on me today. I didn't know some of my numbers on the SEO stuff because you showed me a report and I was a little bit embarrassed about that. But it sort of highlights, it goes, well, holy shit, know your numbers. What's the opportunity cost? Make the smart decision and go. And I'm just saying, so if somebody's going, like for my core brand, I'm probably going to have to redevelop the entire website, right? We're going to have to build a new facade and blah, blah, blah. And even if we end up at a spend of about $50,000 on that, it's a $7 million website.
Yeah.
So in the scheme of things, potatoes. No. We were talking about people's perception of value and price. And I think you shy away from wanting to offer that full solution of website and SEO tied together. And when I pushed you hard on it, you said it's because the fucking client can't see the value, or I've got to drag them to the value, and that's just so exhausting. And it bloody well is, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why I'm hoping that by looking at it in a rational, reverse engineered numbers on turnover, and I would say you'd have to get a 10% bounce. If you get a 15% bounce of shopping through a catalog versus just phone ordering, i.e. showing someone an availability list of photos with pricing, that's about a 15% bounce on sale. You would have to get 10%, even if at a minimum, if you're going to do the SEO and structure the right way and actually do the UX experience the right way. Probably more. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you don't know where to start, I am a client of Social Growth Media, and I would suggest to you, you could get Jackson's team to do your business, but you're going to have to pay what it's worth. And it's worth that 30 to 90 day mark to get a website that converts. So I'll leave that for people to ponder in their own minds there.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, a few things we've covered today. I think it's a really good episode considering it's the first one with you.
Version 1. I mean, we were sort of joking about, where do we go with this? Oh, let's just freestyle it. I mean, I didn't even have my sort of pitch ready on my 3 key points on who I am and what I've done. But version 2, we'll get into who I am and what I've done.
Yeah. There's lots of experience across the table from you right now. So we're going to dig into that gold mine of a brain of yours over the months ahead.
One thing I just want to say, I think the overriding principle in this whole conversation about SEO, website, social media, we are bombarded as business owners with buy this, do that, you should be doing this, you're not keeping up there. Like there is a fair bit of stress involved with social media. And the simple answer to this is you got to find someone who you can trust. And the reason, and this is not a gratuitous plug for Jackson, but the reason why I'm paying my money to you and your company is because I trust you. Because at the end of the day, I've got to spend my money on this shit somewhere, and I'm going to try and make the best decision that I can. And the reason why I've done it is because I trust you. And I think if a client can trust their service provider, happy days. And then you can go and create something fantastic.
Well, thank you, Nicki. I appreciate that.
So it's find someone you can trust. That's what I'm getting at, guys. Like, you'll get a gut feeling on someone when you meet them. And if you don't like them, walk away, and walk away fast.
Yes. Right.
That's it from us on version 1.
Version 1 of this series that we're calling Nicki Christensen and Jackson Dean session.
Jackson, it's been a pleasure.
It has. Signing off for now.